So when was the last time a 20-minute presentation changed your life? Never? Then you were in the right room. If there was, then this is going to be even better. So welcome to day 2 of our Commit Co conference. That's me. If you want to connect with me, you'll get a free donut. I'm just joking. So there's been about 100 plus sessions so far. Most of the sessions kind of scared the crap out of me because I'm gonna take you to the why. So you gotta remember, AI is everywhere. So my 65-year-old parents who took 1.5 years to learn YouTube, now they're masters of ChatGPT, right? They go to a doctor, take the report, upload to ChatGPT, and then they're gonna ask, hey, what should I do? Am I feeling okay? So everybody, the point is, everyone is an AI expert these days. Now, what most important is, how do you make sure the AI is secure, safe, and trustworthy? So this is my 4th or 5th presentation in the last couple of weeks. So I was on a panel with Forbes and Gartner. So most of the conversations kind of scare crap out of me because I'm more focused on security. So I've been an engineer for about 20 years, a state engineer. I think that's the best thing to do in the current world. Before I start, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Jerry. He spoke yesterday in this room. If you haven't watched his session, I would recommend you to go back and watch the session. So he focused mainly on what it takes to be a modern full stack engineer. So if you are a beginner, and I would recommend you to start there. So I'm going to deep dive into one of the critical aspects from his presentation, which is security. The security is going to be key to build trustworthy systems. So let's deep dive into it. So we're going to talk about AI security and does it matter? No, it does matter, but let's see how. And how is the security landscape is shifting? And how do you do secure by design and what is the significance of it? And tools for AI security, and as an engineer or developer, what you do to get into this roadmap. So why the AI security matters now? Because AI is everywhere. Everybody is using a tool. Everybody is an AI expert. Everybody is using an AI tool to develop code, to test code, to deploy code. So it's everywhere. So the engineers are slowly becoming consumers. We should stick to being a creator. You're not consumers of tools. You can consume tools, but you need to understand what is the tool. You need to fully understand. Don't just focus on the output of it. Just focus on how they are doing it. So that's very critical. So I don't focus on how. Most sessions are focused on how, but I'm going to focus on why we should do it, how we should do it, and when we should do it. I think as an engineer, you want to stay as an engineer. You want to develop the engineering mindset. I think this is very critical. You want to be a developer, focus on how. You want to be an engineer, focus on why, what, and when. That's my personal motto. So the FBI Internet Crime reported that AI-powered attacks are 3 times more successful, and 1 in 6 breaches in 2005 are AI-driven attacks. And this is just the beginning. The AI revolution just started, right? I'm sure by the time that report was presented, but today it must be 10x or maybe more than 6 out of 6. So we don't know yet. So what is happening is everybody's using AI, and what will happen eventually is the AI components are going to be a layer in your application, the whole application setup. But that layer will either dominate or control everything else, right? With or without your knowledge. I mean, the engineer's knowledge. So the AI is going to become the standard components in your application. And when we say AI, we are referring to a model, right? It's always a model. If there is no model, then I don't know what AI you're talking about. But so the ML models, they're embedded into your backend services and your LLMs, of course, in your user workflows and computer vision and computer applications. The AI use cases are very finite. I don't know how many of you observed. The number of models that you can use, the number of use cases it can solve is very finite at a principal level. So these are the top 3 that what I've observed. So any vulnerability in that AI space is going to cause a catastrophic failure for your application. It's going to bring down the whole damn application. So the pink, fluffy monster that you see, that's your application trying to embrace AI. Now, if something goes wrong, that monster is going to be angry. So, landscape, how is the whole security landscape is changing? So, the security is always a slippery slope. There's no end to it. When it comes to AI, the traditional application security is inadequate because the traditional focuses on your network, your code, your infrastructure. But when it comes to application security, it's going to bring new attack surfaces like the model. The moment you introduce model in your application, AI, Gen AI model, it's going to increase the attack surfaces like model manipulation, like data poisoning, prompt injection. These are just examples, very popular examples. Now, as an engineer, I said developer, but again, I prefer to say engineer. So as an engineer, what's our responsibility? Our responsibility, security is no longer an afterthought. Security is not a responsibility of a platform team or an identity access management team. Everybody involved in the application has a shared responsibility of security. So the security starts with every single teammate in your team. Okay, now that's going to happen, right? That's an incident that is bound to happen. Now, what is the teller scared of? Is he scared of the banana or the robot holding a banana? What is it? We don't know. That's the state of incidents going to be. You don't know what is hitting you, who is hitting you, but somebody is hitting you very badly. So some of the examples are adversarial exploits, like a slight modification to the inputs. They can alter the behavior of your model. They can dictate what your model behavior is going to be. So that's extremely dangerous. Now, data poisoning, if your data is crap, the model output is going to be crappier, right? That's period. So if I poison your data, then no matter what model you use, from whom, it's going to mess up the whole record. So data poisoning is key. And insecure endpoints, I'm sure most of the engineers are very well aware of using APIs. But if your APIs that you're exposing are not secured, then your business is down to dogs. So, all right, now what can you do to embed security into your application lifecycle, right? So that's called security by design. It's getting popular these days. You might have heard shift left. So shift left in terms of security, take it all the way to the design phase. So those are the typical lifecycle stages: design, implementation, you test, you deploy, and you push it to production. Now let's take design. So what can you do in terms of design? Like threat modeling. I don't know how many of you have heard about threat modeling, but threat modeling is it's gonna catch at least 50% of potential vulnerabilities in your system. So I will show an example of threat model. Then at the implementation phase, you got to make sure the security controls are built into the models. Sometimes the model might have access to more than what is required. So you can constrain the behavior of a model, which you can do that. And in testing phase, red teaming. You may have heard about penetration testing, but penetration testing and red teaming are like, they're brothers, but they're not twins. So I prefer red teaming than penetration testing because the scope is different. So if you're using a model, building a model, make sure you perform red teaming. What red teaming does is it attacks your model with a set of, with the attack library. It keep attacking your model and it will tell you before you go to production that, hey, your model is vulnerable in these areas. So it gives you an opportunity to fix your model. Deployment phase, make sure the verified code or verified model gets to production. So before you commit your code or your model to your Artifactory or any other repository, make sure it is tested and verified, and only deploy those model or that piece of code. Now, production. After doing all that, you deploy your application to production. It's out of your hands. You have zero control. That's where the most damage is going to be, because it's AI. You have to monitor every single interaction with your model or with your application. How can you tell there is a user with malicious intent is trying to tamper the behavior of your model. You cannot tell unless you monitor every single token, every single interaction through a token or user, and you have to block that user or session or a token. So that's extremely important. Then threat modeling, you'll give an example. So that's exactly how threat modeling feels. You don't know, you don't have your application, you're blinded, right? And then you have to design it, right? And you don't know who is watching your design. So I'm going to give you a quick example of the threat model here. So that's how the typical threat model looks like, and you can use Microsoft Threat Modeler. It does a fantastic job. So just put in, hey, I'm going to use a browser. Just drag and drop a browser in it. It's going to tell you what are the possible vulnerabilities that the tool is aware of. It's going to tell you how to remediate and all that. So that's an example of it, and you can just build crazy diagrams. So before you do, when you're designing your application, this must be the first step for any engineer. So the way you do it is you identify your key assets, be it a mobile phone or a browser or APIs or whatever, and then that will help you to map out the attack surfaces, and the tool will tell you for each of these attack surfaces, these are the possible ways that we can attack you, and you can assess the risks and then plan accordingly. How do you secure your model supply chain? I mean, this is extremely critical in the AI lifecycle. Data acquisition. Everything is revolved around data. If data is crap, then your model is, I mean, there's no point, right? And the model development, so make sure your data is safe, you clean it, and you maintain the versions of, maintain the document data lineage. That's very important. Model development and say dependency scanning. So you have your model, you develop your model, then there will be some dependencies. Make sure you scan the dependencies, look for all the vulnerabilities before you push it to repository. Then model registry, always maintain the version of the model, obvious reasons. And when you deploy, again, runtime protection. Runtime protection is when you monitor the interactions with your application in the runtime. So make sure that is in place. And then, of course, the container scanning is typical application security step. Hardening your AI APIs. Again, this should be pretty fundamental for any engineer. Like you got to authenticate, authorize, make sure all input is validated and sanitization is done. Control your output, and then put some rate limiting and quota management. It's pretty basic, but again, that must be there. So let's move on to testing. Adversarial testing for AI models. So evasion attacks, model inversion tests, and prompt injection testing, that's something that you have to do in your dev. You do those tests, run those tests. There are tools which can help you to do those tests. Do those tests, and before you put it in, check in your code to repository. Then once it goes to production, the runtime monitoring is going to look for anomaly detection, performance monitoring. So anomaly detection is about suspicious activity that's been going on. It's very, very challenging to monitor that. So you can rely on some of the popular tools. Performance monitoring, it could be one session, could be hitting your system continuously or trying to steal a lot of data. So you got to look at the performance for sure. Access auditing, who has access to your system, right? The APIs that you're exposing, so make sure they're all properly authenticated. Then automated response. Now, this is very important because you do detect an anomaly or a malicious activity on your system, but it should tell somebody. So detection is not enough. You got to communicate back to the owners of the application so they can do the necessary action. So that has to be fully automated. So you guys have to configure it as an engineer. That's extremely important when it comes to the AI systems. These are some of the tools. I'm not a big fan of these tools because tomorrow there could be a new tool doing something better, or there could be just one tool that can do everything, right? So some of the popular tools are MLflow. I don't know if you have used it. Again, Prometheus, Grafana. Somebody was here yesterday talking about it. So, but the key thing when it comes to tools is at least what I look for when I try to implement a tool is I talk to the vendors and find out their research capabilities. Because this is AI evolving space, if they are not doing the research on their end, then that tool or any tool is prone for attacks. So that's something that they have to establish, provide the confidence to me as a user that, okay, I'm going to use your tool. Now tell me what are the researching, what research, how big is the research team, and what do you guys do to identify threats on your tool? So that's something I'll make sure I always do that. And roadmap. So as an engineer, what's going to be your security roadmap is you start small, right? You begin with threat modeling for your current AI projects or your applications, map out your attack surfaces, find out how vulnerable your application is, and then put in your mitigation steps, right? So some of the tools, they detect the vulnerability, they'll let you the potential vulnerability, and they'll tell you what to do as well. So Microsoft Threat Model, again, I found it very useful, but there are other tools as well. Then build skills, of course, right? You got to train your development team, yourself, your dev team on AI-specific security risks and secure coding patterns, right? So the secure by design concepts that you've learned earlier, that's something that I would hope you would implement in your projects. So I've been socializing this for a couple of years now within my teams and within my company to bring that awareness, which is extremely critical. It's always easy to fix or mitigate a vulnerability before it goes out to production, right? So catch it before rather than after. Then integration of tools. So add security scanning along with your code scanning. Again, I just focused on security scanning here, but the code scanning tools, that's SEA tools, or SAS tools, or DAS tools. So the AI security tool should be one among them in your pipeline. So make sure you have a job for AI security, and you do your code scanning first, then run the AI security scan, and then publish your code. Then the publish your code. Yeah, the next one is mature practices. As you do it more often, you should also on the side develop a comprehensive standard to implement security in your team or in your company. And then governance for all AI systems, especially when it comes to runtime protection. So when you detect something, how are you going to react? So that's something that you'll have to implement. And that ends my my talk on this. So always remember, commit the code. So securely committing the code is extremely important. And with that, I'll take leave. Thanks so much.